This topic's been hanging over a lot of people's heads for a long time. There's been a lot of discussion, rumors, innuendo in terms of what people believe happened. Why? What has sort of driven? I mean, I couldn't help but notice that that you all were talking about it quite a bit recently, and before it wasn't discussed as much. What drove your decisions, for example, to go on the Joe Budden Show and Breakfast Club, et cetera, to address this issue now?
Originally, of course, there's a series out on Netflix right now called The Godfather of Harlem. And unfortunately, again, because we are lazy learners and not paying attention, we didn't look at and read the disclaimer when they started the series, and it said events have been fictionalized for dramatic effect. Now, I don't know about you, Dr. Boyce, but the definition of fictionalized means that somebody's lying. Events have been fictionalized for dramatic effect means that we are lying about aspects of the life of Bumpy Johnson as he interacted with Malcolm X to make the show more exciting. And whenever you watch the show, they have an artificial made up relationship that Bumpy Johnson had with Malcolm X. And then they have him, Bumpy Johnson, using Malcolm X and the FOI kind of like enforcers or hitmen on behalf of the cause of Black criminality. And in it, they paint the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as a envious and jealous teacher of a student. And they keep dropping seeds about we are the ones that killed Malcolm X. So Joe Budden asked a question to one of his co-hosts, and the co-host said, y'all know, we know who killed Malcolm. We know who killed him. And Joe Budden said, no, I don't know who. And he said, the nation. And then, of course, Joe Budden said, well, can it be proven? He said, yeah, you ain't seen the movie. You know, we ain't, I mean, come on, man, we in school, we seen them. You ain't read the book and so anytime that one of our illuminaries in media and once in hip hop can come to a conclusion that I'm getting ready to say the nation killed Malcolm, or anything for that matter, based upon something that Hollywood put out, is a sign that we have to get on the offensive. So we were blessed. Brother Joe Budden brought us on. We presented some facts, and Brother Amal, he apologized and said, man, I was the victim of a lie. I received the authorized King James Version, not the real life of Malcolm X. So that's how it went, because in this movie, The Godfather of Harlem, they are trying to paint an illusionary concept of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, who was the only, show me another leader on the planet that would take a person in prison, and whenever he writes the honorable Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X, he sends back handwritten responses and puts money in the envelope every time, guiding him on what to study. And when Malcolm X is released from prison as a convicted felon, he promotes him to a minister and ultimately to the national representative. Show me another Negro organization or Negro leader that'll take somebody out of jail, communicate with them while they're in jail, give them money and guidance, and when they get out, make them the VP or the CEO or the head of a chamber. But that's the kind of love the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had for Brother Malcolm. But it was depicted in the movie. And really, that disclaimer, Dr. Boyce, events have been fictionalized for dramatic effect. Not only should that be on The Godfather of Harlem, that should be on the movie Betty and Coretta. That should be on the movie Malcolm X, and really should even be as an introduction to the autobiography of Malcolm X, written by Alex Haley. Because now they found 3 weeks ago, New York Times reported in an article that there are chapters that are missing from the autobiography of Malcolm X that they purchased and now have in the Schomburg Library in New York. And in those chapters, Manning Marble, who wrote the book Malcolm X, the reinvention of Malcolm X, he was privileged to read 3 chapters for 15 minutes by the lawyer in Memphis that owned these copies. And he said, when he got finished with that, he said, I know for certain the Nation of Islam had nothing to do with the murder of Malcolm X. It was much bigger than that. So question, why then do they continue to recycle the same lie? And it, unfortunately, is because they have always been able to, anytime a great prominent Black figure has arisen from among us, they've always been able to find a volunteer, self-appointed, pro bono Negro defense attorney or a paid Negro as a living man to attack another living leader. But with this man, Farrakhan, that's been on this battlefield now for 65 years, they couldn't raise a Black leader to attack him and be effective. And even the great white minds have not been effective. So since there hasn't been a living Black or white person that can contend with the mind of Farrakhan, they have to resurrect Malcolm from the dead and use him as a weapon against the affinity Black people have for him and the affinity Black people have for the nation. Make you love Malcolm and then say the nation killed Malcolm. And then, of course, for every action there is in nature is equal and opposite reaction. So if I've learned to love Malcolm and I find out y'all quote unquote killed Malcolm, then I grow the opposite equal reaction, which means I develop hatred for Farrakhan, hatred for the nation. That's the scientific plot of this propaganda machine.